Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode where the digital frontier meets innovative marketing in the exciting world of Web3. Lots of things happening in Web3 these days, a lot of steam going into the first quarter of the year, going into the summer. But if we imagine that, there's a world where we, every click, every view, every community interaction not only boosts your digital presence, but also contributes directly to your wallet. Now, this has been the big talk, the big vision, the power of Web3 marketing, a universe where traditional rules are rewritten and where transparency, community, and creativity lead the way in user acquisition. And that's one of the topics we're going to talk about today. Look, navigating Web3 marketing is no small feat. I think the people who have been in the space have done really well, mainly for the set of challenges that every project has a unique set of challenges that they need to focus on building new digital communities and how they engage and create value for the community. It's all different. It's never like the same school book time and time again. But today, we are joined by Fraser Bell, and we are going to deep dive with him as he's the Chief Marketing Officer at Mintstars, and shed light on some of the areas of how he's kind of taken an approach to build marketing for Mintstars. We're going to look at his expert insights. He brings a wealth of experience where he's pioneered methods to foster an engaged and growing community, leveraging blockchain technology to transform content monetization. And we'll talk about some actionable strategies. You'll get actual advice on building trust and navigating regulatory uncertainty. Learn how to implement effective, tactics in your market to create your market presence and straight from someone who's actually doing it today. And real world applications. We'll hear some real life examples overcoming the hurdles that he's had to overcome to attract and retain a vast user base. So welcome to the show, Fraser.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Arthur.
Yeah. So I guess today we're gonna be talking about mainly from your experience. You're a CMO. You're in a space where you're offering an audience, I guess a Web 2 to Web 3 audience, a proposition through Mintstars. Maybe you can briefly explain or give your elevator pitch on what Mintstar is and what you guys are looking to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mintstars is a low censorship subscription platform for content creators. So Mintstars, like zooming out, is part of the creator economy. There's about 50 million people around the world who make some kind of income as a content creator. And then within that, there are platforms that are premium social media platforms where creators can monetize their content, gate content for their fans. So you probably heard of Patreon, you might have heard of OnlyFans, and these platforms have opened up new ways for these creators to make money. But there are problems. There are issues with piracy, censorship of content, chargebacks, and issues with creators getting paid out. And Mintstars was built to address some of those problems specifically, and what we're going to talk about today is by turning creators' content into NFTs and using crypto payments, specifically the stablecoin USDC. And doing these various things allows us to keep fees really, really low for creators, reduce censorship, and also make these products available to people all over the world. And yeah, we're working with a few thousand content creators, and over 10,000 of their fans now are spending money on Mintstars and supporting creators.
So what is the main reasons or the top 3 reasons why creators are being drawn to your platform and leveraging it for their own monetization purposes?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to them at the start, but one of the biggest, and it's I think almost universal to products that use crypto as a solution, is payments. So firstly, if you're a creator and you're using one of these existing platforms like OnlyFans or Patreon, you're probably paying anywhere from 15 to 30% in fees to the platform. So for every dollar you make, whether it's a tip, a subscription, or selling content, you're giving up to a third of that away to the platform. And that's because those platforms use traditional payment rails effectively, and they themselves have payment processing costs. They're dealing with chargebacks and whatnot. With crypto, you basically don't have those fees. You're using a peer-to-peer. You're making a peer-to-peer payment and just paying a small network or gas fee. There's also no chargebacks in crypto. So as a creator, if someone subscribes to you, you get that money straight away rather than having to wait 30, 60 days to be able to cash out. So that's really important if you're trying to live off that income. So solving those issues around payments is huge. The other one that I mentioned is censorship. So if you accept Visa or MasterCard for your services as a creator, you actually need to adhere to 45 pages worth of guidelines about the products and services you sell. And that means that the platforms like OnlyFans, like Patreon, actually have to limit quite carefully the content that they allow on those platforms. So in our case, we consider ourselves friendly to adult content creators, and that's one of the niches that we're focused on, because those creators often get turned away from these other spaces. So sort of summing up, for us, there are many millions of creators around the world that experience problems with payments and censorship. And the founders of Mintstars, Jessica and Daniel, a couple of years ago, realized that crypto could provide a sort of functional solution to those problems.
Right. So you mentioned with the typical payment rails, credit cards or whatnot, there are a lot of chargebacks. What would be a typical case? Is it someone who, I accidentally, paid, I didn't mean to subscribe or whatever, paid to this person? Were they unhappy with the content? What is it? What are the usual cases for chargebacks?
Yeah, I think there's three things. So yeah, one, that last one is sometimes people might be genuinely, unhappy. They might have been deceived by a creator who said, "Hey, if you subscribe to this, you're going to get this course or these materials or this content," and it's not there. So that's a legitimate reason to charge someone back. The second one is that with digital goods, like let's say an online course, it's normally delivered instantly. So there's an element of, if you're a consumer, you could buy and unlock a piece of content, save it, download it, and then go, right, well, I've got that, I've consumed it. Now I'm going to file a chargeback straight away. There's no lag time between paying and receiving. And so sometimes people exploit that to put through a chargeback. And then the third one is that, there can be regret. And I think when you think about industries like the gambling industry or the adult content industry, sometimes people ideally, they look back and think, oh, I wish I hadn't paid for that. Or they look at the end of the month at their credit card bill and think, yeah, I wish I hadn't paid for that. And they file a chargeback. But that's ultimately unfair on, in our case, the content creator who's provided the content, delivered the content, and is relying on that money to pay the bills. And they've done nothing wrong. So if we can protect those creators from that chargeback and use crypto to do it, then that's going to add a lot of value and sort of feeling of security for our users.
Okay, so then what would a creator do then in a case where it was a real deal? Like, okay, this is a mistake, or you kind of bait switched me. I guess they could still have a regular return policy cycle, but it actually gets sent back via crypto, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why you still use a platform like Mintstars, because it's up to us to ensure that those sellers and like the reputation of creators is good. And if we were to see a creator like abusing the fact that we make chargebacks a bit more difficult, then that is a reputational risk for us if we're allowing creators on board that don't deliver or that fans regularly have an issue with. So it's something that when we think about the way we process payments, we are taking an element of risk, but the upside is really huge for creators.
Okay, and you were saying you guys support the use of USDC, stablecoin, I guess. Anything else where that's the main payment?
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah,
that's the way it worked. It's on the Polygon blockchain, so gas fees are super low. So we actually obfuscate all of that. So as a
mm,
fan, you can top up your wallet originally with a debit card. We then turn that into USDC that you can then spend on a creator. So the crucial
got it.
part is once you've converted into USDC and you're spending money, you can spend it with super low fees, no chargeback risk for the creator, and we can allow the content that people want to buy and sell. It was really important for us with our audience, which is really Web2 native creators and their fans. It was super important that we gave them something that had the feeling of using US dollars and that gave them that security of, okay, my income's not going to go up and down based on the price of a token, which is a real fear if you're new to cryptocurrency. And also just that confidence in this is how much I want to charge for my product. And this is how much money I know I'm going to make. And then equally for the fan, one of the biggest advantages that existing platforms have, like OnlyFans or Patreon, is they have millions of fans that are familiar with, I know how to subscribe on this platform. I know how to enter my card details. We had to, because we're using crypto, we have a bit of a hurdle with those new users. So we've had to try and abstract away as much as possible those kind of new processes.
Yeah, so you got a pretty good strong community of creators, and I assume that their fans have been more than happy to follow them onto their platforms. Do you have an idea of how many people moved away from a place like OnlyFans or Patreon onto your platform?
Yeah, so on the creator side, the sort of couple of thousand creators that we're working with and growing so very significantly every month, all of these creators are open to trying new platforms because they've faced massive issues with piracy or massive issues with content being deleted or getting $1,000 tip and then having it charged back 2 days later. So they're all looking for those solutions. So if you look up who the people are on our platform, you'll see that they're on OnlyFans, they're on other places, or they are looking, or they have in the past been on those platforms. So for us, the strategy is really to be people's first alternative to one of those incumbents. And over time, as we charge 5% instead of 20%, people will hopefully put more of their earnings through us than elsewhere once they kind of build up their audience on Mintstars. Skipping a little bit ahead into the strategy, we're really trying to optimize for the creator, make the experience as good as possible, so that they then bring their fans across to Mintstars rather than kind of taking their audience to another platform.
Right. So it sounds like the creators for sure are being served with a strong value proposition.
Yeah.
And the fans, for them, they just need to learn how to move over to crypto and use USDC, which is not difficult if, right? So.
No, and I think we've tried to make it as simple as possible with sort of the having the fiat on ramp option for those sort of web 2 users. The other piece that we hinted at the start is that we allow creators to make their content collectible. So if creators want to, they can limit the number of copies that's available of their content, and that means that any fan that subscribes and starts receiving those limited collectibles can later, if they no longer want access to that content, they can later resell that content and earn money. So yeah, we've tried to build like an ecosystem and a community that not only has massive benefit for the creator, but also gives something for those fans to kind of take part in and feel a sense of ownership in as well.
Okay. So when we in Web3, I talked to a lot of projects, and one of the biggest things has always been, we need to build trust with our community, and it's going to be a strong relationships. In your experience, I mean, trust building, does it happen from the relationship the brand has with the let's say the creators or the fans, or is it actually the creators that build the trust with the fans outside of Mintstar?
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. I guess when we had a little pre-discussion about this, I thought of 3 points, but actually the underpinning factor is that if you have a marketplace type business where you've got kind of buyers and sellers like we do, you are leveraging the credibility of the people in the network. So yeah, I think it's probably underpinned by who those people are, how they behave, how they talk about your product and evangelize. And that's the same with any community. There are some, I guess, slightly, less well tried strategies that we've done that we found a bit of success with to build that trust. So one that I don't see very much from Web3 product is actually trying to get mainstream press coverage. It's very rare, at least here in the UK where I'm based, to actually read something in a reputable newspaper or online about crypto or about a Web3 platform. You might see a bit of coverage about Bitcoin, might see a bit of coverage about the price of Ether and Ethereum. But we consciously decided to work with a PR agency who had really deep connections in the traditional sort of London press. And that's led to us getting coverage in the Financial Times, City AM, which is a big business newspaper here in London. And I think that helps us kind of stand out from a trust perspective versus not only our sort of direct platform competitors, but also like Web3 projects that are looking for investment as a whole, because it's quite rare to see that coverage. So that was a little bit of an unusual trust building strategy. And the other one that I think is really interesting is just transparency. We've really chosen to put the people in the team in front of our community and our existing users, but also just doing things like this. And I've always looked for opportunities for our co-founders to appear on podcasts, in the news, etc. Most platforms like us in the sort of creator economy space, they don't actually put their main team in front of their users or in front of the public. They tend to kind of shy away and let brand ambassadors or whoever do the talking for them. So that's been really interesting. And we've also sort of extended that transparency through to sharing kind of progress monthly on calls with creators. How many users have we got? How much revenue have we got? What features are coming up? And I think that's driven a lot of faith in that we're trying to do right by our audience.
Right. Well, you talk about reaching out to the mainstream media, and I've worked with pitching projects or stories to the mainstream media, and sometimes it's I guess a journey to figure out what is it that they're looking for as a story. And depending what media outlet they work for, sometimes they are looking for something that drives traffic to the website, obviously sells copies of their newspaper. So at the end of the day, it almost sounds like, maybe what you guys have done is work with a PR agency who had that experience to create that narrative, that story that would be attractive to these media outlets. Because I've seen the other side of it, conversely, people would pay to be on mainstream media. It's basically paid sponsored content or something like this. They tell their story, but you can see that it's not a story that's compelling. It's just someone like boasting about their own project, right? So I've seen that as well.
Yeah, and I think actually, when you picture a startup, or it could be a crypto project, it could be another tech company that has the logos of some media outlets on their website, I think that is commoditized. Like, as you say, you can pay to play, or you can find a way of kind of getting the logos, but actually telling a story that appears in those places that resonates and that you can then sort of show to people is a lot harder.
Yeah. I guess that's one of the marketing tactics people have used and still use today, not only in Web3, just across all like early stage startups that want to show credibility. So they pay They get I see it on Forbes, USA Today, and all these major outlets. And then if you look at their the story in itself, you can tell it's basically mass distribution across the platform.
Yeah.
So not really that impressive at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it obviously you have to have those. You have to be lucky enough to have either a product that's solving a real problem that you can then relate to something that is current and that journalists want to write about, that's going to get them traffic, or you've got to have, you could tap into the personal story or of the founders, which is something we've done quite heavily.
Yeah. So I think it's really good that you guys have brought your team forward and be part of engaging with the community, because I think maybe perhaps one of the hardest things is to get someone who actually is willing to do that, part of the team. Also, many times there's a concern of, okay, let's say someone starts with the project, they engage with community, and all of a sudden they leave, right? Then all of a sudden there's like this gap in the community of who's championing all the conversations. But I think what people tend to, and maybe you can tell me your opinion, that it's not dependent on the team, the project or the brand's team to continue to have those conversations in the community. At some point, it's the community having conversations with everyone, right? Eventually, organically, ambassadors will come out. People who really believe in the project will be the ones that actually fulfill and facilitate the engagement. Is that true in your case at Mintstars?
Yeah, so I think I'd probably try and split it into different layers of how we've seen that happen. So yes, you want your users, especially when you're building a consumer platform like us, where there's potentially hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of those users, to go and do the talking. And yeah, I think the layers are probably one, having messaging that those users understand, and we've started to see over time our users say the lines that we say, because we say them on every call with we say them on every call with a creator, we say them on our website, we say them in the press, and therefore the users, the creators, the fans repeat those. The second is having, and you can apply this to a product, you can apply this to an NFT project, to anything, but having tools that let the community spread the word. So in our case, every time a creator makes a post on the platform, they can send an automatic tweet. Twitter is the platform that our creators are on. So they'll send an automated tweet promoting that they've made a post, promoting that they've made money. We have like one click to share. When someone joins the waitlist, they can share, hey, I've joined the waitlist. And just various other kind of like social sharing things. So we've made it as quick as possible for people to do that. And then the third is actually incentivizing the community to share. So we have a super basic referral scheme where we just pay a flat fee for every creator that gets referred. And without really having to ask people to go and do it, just with a very small fee, we see creators saying, hey, I'm on this platform, I've had a good experience. If you do sign up and mention my name, like that'll benefit me. So it's kind of laying those foundations, giving people the tools, and then adding a little bit of incentive on the top, just to kind of turbocharge it, if you like.
Right. I mean, I think naturally people are part of many different communities, and they'll engage with the one that basically benefits them in either, entertainment, information, or, something of value.
And it also, because we're only a seed stage startup, we don't have, millions to spend on marketing. People value just those small gestures. So one of the most successful giveaways we've done so far has been offering people merch, because you can't actually buy the merch at the moment. And so what better symbol that you are a creator on Mintstars, or that you're part of the community, than being one of the handful of people that has a Mintstars shirt or a Mintstars mug or a Mintstars jumper, which is the merch that we have. And it's actually performed better than a lot of the $100, $500 cash giveaways that we've done. So trying out those different things, seeing what resonates, has been really good for us.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really good. I mean, at least the approach that you're taking, and I guess in some respects, people or there are many projects who are like in this race to get as many users as they can, at least perception wise. Whether they be motivated through airdrops or contests or these type of things, I feel that are very short term. At the end of the day, are they going to be those valid users who are on your platform because they understand the real value behind it and extracting the
Yeah.
real value rather than the short term? And I feel that that's missed a lot. But at the same time, I guess people who are looking to look for VC funding, or they're going to have a token generation event. It's all about building perception. So in your opinion,
Yeah.
you've been a marketer for some time. How important is it to not so much like the perception that people are building these days? You never know what's real or not, right? So
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, and I think it's I just to go back to a point you made about airdrops and tokens and things like that being a strategy for community building. In our case, we don't have a token. We are planning to introduce a sort of points or like a loyalty scheme that will kind of hopefully include some of those dynamics of like earning and using the platform. But if your product is a DeFi protocol, for example, having money go through the system, having a volume of people engaging with it, whether it's like bridging crypto onto your chain or whatever it is, that is valuable. So I understand that depending on your product, your strategy might simply be to acquire a large number of people engaging with it, even at a superficial level or even at some other level. In our case, the only way that our platform's going to grow is by having fans spending money on creators. So we had to be quite specific about that, about those goals and those KPIs. Yeah, and I think in terms of the second piece of knowing what's real, the other kind of trust building piece that's interesting is around investors. I think both of us here and a lot of people listening have probably seen a lot of ups and downs in the crypto space. There are still many investors that have a really great reputation and that have the ability to give your project credibility. I was lucky enough that just after joining Mintstars Polygon, the blockchain actually gave us some investment. We've had to work hard to actually tap into the community and kind of get Polygon kind of like sharing our content and talking to us. But having that name, has opened a lot of doors and like solidified, okay, this is a real product, real group of people, who've at least been vetted by, a group that is respected. Similarly with other investors, we had an investment from a company called SpankChain, who were a leading adult crypto payment product. They've been around for about 5 years now. They're sort of very early to the space. So that kind of solidified, okay, this is a legitimate crypto business. It's also a legitimate business that's, available for adult content creators to use. So obviously there's strategies in how you go and leverage those investors after they've invested, but that has really benefited us.
Right. Well, going back to the content, you were saying that a lot of creators I guess they have more freedom in the content that they produce and not having to worry of whether or not they'll be censored. How do you manage that, I guess, on a regulatory point of view of making sure the content is safe and not egregious stuff that should be out there?
Yeah, of course. And I think can draw one dividing line, which is an interesting sort of debate in crypto at the moment. We don't store the actual media on chain. It's quite important to us that you can kind of pull back anything that's gone on content wise, because one, creators make mistakes. They upload the wrong thing. They upload something that they later don't want uploaded. And you don't necessarily always want the permanence of and transparency of the blockchain. For us, the NFT piece is actually ownership and access to view that piece of content rather than the media itself. So that's really important from a sort of like moderation and safety standpoint. The second is, at the moment, we vet to some extent every single creator. They have to go through an ID verification process. So, there's always a link to a real person, and hopefully we can kind of, while being as liberal as possible with content guidelines, because of using those crypto rails, there are laws that every platform has to comply with. We've also tried to bring in, from a team perspective, people that have a lot of experience of doing this at other platforms successfully.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are your fans, or I guess Mintstars, customer base, are they looking for token? I mean, it's kind of maybe a natural, like, why aren't you guys having a token? I would love to participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the distinction that it took us a lot of time when we started the business to figure out is that ultimately, if you are building for a Web3 native user, and that could be any type of Web3 user, it could be an airdrop hunter, it could be an NFT collector, it could be a DeFi user, whoever. If you're building for one of those personas, then your product needs to be a Web3 native product. Like, you're going to turn up and want to connect to your MetaMask. You're going to want to bring your existing NFTs or existing coins to spend and use on that platform. In our case, we sort of made the call that actually we would like to find early adopters, but they're not necessarily purely Web3 users, and the platform isn't therefore going to be sort of totally geared in that direction. So that's why we to date have not launched a token. Saying that, we've obviously observed, hey, that creators are becoming a little bit familiar with crypto. A lot of fans are early adopters. They have some familiarity with crypto. Maybe if we can allude to things like points and things like the fact that your content is collectible and tradable and resellable, like, those are things that should drive deeper user engagement with our platform than purely Web2 alternatives. And then when you think about down the line, you've got all these fans engaging with creators, spending crypto, earning collectibles. That could lend itself, to an airdrop. It could lend itself to like on-chain rewards or partnerships with, different kind of on-chain companies, NFT projects, whoever. So it's just in our case, it was very much, let's kind of build like Web 2.5, and then, open things up over time, rather than start with the sort of fully decentralized model, because it's a different audience.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a safe way to go to move a lot of content creators, which are probably still obviously in Web 2, and slowly move them into the space of Web 3, and they're going through their own journey to understand how this environment works as well. But with your positioning, I guess, Mintstars, what is your unique, I guess, your differentiation in the market? Like, what do your communities say about Mintstars and how they, kind of stand you out from the crowd?
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about transparency. We've talked about some of the sort of features and benefits. I think the other piece has been really deeply optimizing for the creator, and we're talked about as a creator-friendly platform. It's come from having creators on our team. Creators have invested, talking constantly to creators. So I think that's pretty unique, aside from the sort of feature function and communication of the benefits.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, one final piece that I think is different, and I don't have a metric behind the difference it's made, is that even though we're a couple of thousand creators now, we still offer every single new creator a one-to-one call with a member of our team. And
Mm.
we're a small team. There's only, there's a team of like 5 or 6 of us that are the core group. But if you're a creator and you join, you have the opportunity to speak to one of us for, well, as long as you want, but normally up to half an hour. And the fact that we've done that, it's meant that we've clarified how the platform works. With every creator, we've expressed our values and our goals as a business and as a team to every single person that's joined the platform. And, we're reaching the point where we're moving towards more perhaps group calls and sort of monthly check-ins with creators as a group. But to get us to that first 2,000 creators, 10,000 users, it's been pretty invaluable, although it has led to some kind of long work days for people on the team.
Well, with that said, did you have to make a lot of pivots, or is it more just optimizing the platform?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily the forum for it today, but building a Web3 based product, but making it feel like a Web2 product is really difficult. And a lot of the last sort of 18 months, 2 years that I've been with the team has been perfecting that product, that process, and making something that converts creators and converts fans. And it's still sort of in beta, as crazy as it sounds, even though the platform's been live for a year. And so there's obviously all of that, and I guess pivoting from a sort of technical and an infrastructure perspective has happened. Secondly, the main I don't know about pivot, but optimization has been finding that niche. And if you zoom out again to that 50 million creators worldwide, initially we wanted to go after all 50 million. It then kind of niche down into, okay, there's some sectors, there's fitness creators, maybe there's adult creators. Then when you zoom in on each of those, there's maybe 100 different niches there. And thankfully, we found sort of 4 or 5 very tight communities that we've managed to onboard quite a high percentage of and contact quite a big percentage of, and get those early evangelists in those niches. So that's really been, the sort of testing and learning process has been to sort of identify those tight groups and try and make them aware of the platform. And hopefully it's a foundation that we can expand from.
Sure. Well, you're definitely doing what I've heard from other people that Web3 projects aren't doing, and that really is doing a lot of not only market research or customer research, it is listening to their customer base. And you can argue, people say, well, customers never know what they really want, right? But that's the thing, is to work in collaboration to figure out, especially with their content creators, what is going to give them the most value, what's going to make it easier for them, which equally translates to it making it easier for the fans. And it becomes like this network effects, right? You hit one micro niche, then all of a sudden you're serving all these other creators, and they've got all these other fans, which will move over onto your platform. So it sounds like a quite nice move on your side. Yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge is that, it's a fairly typical strategy, but there's still a question of sort of width versus depth. So do you get 10 creators onboarded who each bring 100 subscribers, or do you get 1,000 creators who maybe they've only got on average one subscriber to come across? And some VCs will go and ask you in a conversation, well, why have you got so few creators on the platform? And others will say, oh, the average number of subscribers doesn't look so good. So depending on where your product is and what your goals are, or how you can grow your revenue, etc., you've got to balance those different things.
Yeah. Are you able to send me?
Sure.
Sorry about that. I had a hidden iPad. I just gave it to my daughter because my wife is traveling, and then I guess she's FaceTiming. Anyways, sorry about that. I can cut that out.
That's all right.
All right. So I was gonna ask then. So you talk about the investors. They probably have their own perspective of what your success metrics should be, and you guys have your own. Is there often a mismatch when you're working with like setting expectations with investors and what they're asking? Like you just said, oh, it feels like there's not enough creators on your platform.
Yeah,
what does that really mean?
I
Yeah.
think there is at least, although there's, every investor wants to see a different chart or a different breakdown or anything like that. I think for us, there's no solution like revenue. So ultimately, revenue is revenue growth at a startup at pre-seed stage, seed stage is what makes the most difference, and we've managed to start getting that in the right direction. We actually split our sort of internal success metrics into three. So it's acquisition of creators, activation of the creators, and then overall monetization. And each of those three, if you like, has their own set of leading indicators. They're almost like each is almost like a mini funnel that we track. So, for example, acquisition, our goal is verified creators joining the platform, but at the top of the mini funnel, you've got traffic to a creator landing page, registrations on that page, invites sent to those creators, creators joining the platform, and then at the bottom, creators verifying their ID. And so at each of those points, we've got a metric that sits on a dashboard weekly, monthly. We're tracking the changes, we're tracking the goals. And when we sit down as a team, a couple of times a week, we see which numbers are up and which are down, and we know kind of, okay, we need to put someone onto this activity to kind of get that number back to where it needs to be. So yeah, we've managed to get quite a nice sort of growth framework and a cadence as a team. But it's been a real journey to do it. We probably had 6 months of understanding what the growth model should be and making sure we had all the data against all of those data points. Now that we've got it, it's more about, can we, grow the numbers at each stage? Can we kind of keep all the plates spinning of those different stages in the funnel successfully?
Right. Okay. So, for the amount of time that you've brought on new creators, I guess what is the cycle to actually reach out to creator? I mean, I don't know how you guys do it. You can explain, how do you reach out to creator, convince them to get onboarded, get them educated how to use the platform, so on and so forth. What is that time, like the cycle from start to like launching some content and then trying to bring the fans over?
Yeah, so I think that's such a good question. It's not something we measure some points of that, but if I had to guess, I'd say 5 days.
Okay.
Typically, you've got three ways that creators hear about us. One is some kind of organic social media, mostly Twitter. So if we make a post on Twitter, people will see it that aren't signed up. They will sign up, which is great. Secondly, referral. So we can attribute this person mentioned that they heard about it from this creator. And thirdly, we go direct to a lot of creators. We direct message. We have a target of how many direct messages we send. We know that there's a conversion rate on those direct messages that we send to creators. And so we know that if we send enough of those messages, we should see enough creators applying to join. We then try and approve their application to join within 24 hours. On average, it then takes them about a day to kind of make that account. They do an online ID verification. It's quite quick, but still sometimes there's people that kind of drop out at that point or need to be chased up through the funnel. We're looking at how we can we sort of automatically approve those applications? Can we verify their credentials based on using another platform or using a social media platform? That would speed things up for us. And then you kind of get into the activation stage, which is, we have a metric internally of how much we think a creator needs to post before they'll start getting subscribers. So we have certain kind of nudges that we give to creators through our messaging that try and get them to that level of posting and then promoting their profile on social media. So it's all, it's been a learning process of what those kind of nudges are, what those targets are. But yeah, if I was going to do this again with any other company, or I would try and identify what are those sort of North Stars at different stages of the process, and how can we optimize for those?
Right. So are you guys using any AI in your process of either building a creator's profile. I mean, are creators actually using AI to create their own avatars and not using their own face? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's sort of two interesting parts there. One is, yes, we use AI to help kind of identify creators that we'd like on the platform and help kind of filter who is a creator that is talking about subjects that our other creators are talking about. And so we kind of use it like as a filtering mechanism, which is great internally. On the creator side, creators are concerned about what AI is going to mean for their image and their likeness being used online. So yeah, for us, it's about consent of how creators have input and control of their image. In some cases, creators are themselves producing their own AI likenesses and making more content using that, and clearly distinguishing it from their real life isn't the right word, but their sort of traditional online persona, and
Sure.
so quite a lot of creators are sort of creating, if you like, duplicates of themselves. We're only going to see more of that, I'm sure. I think for us, as long as it's clear to the fan and the consumer, who am I interacting with and how has that content been made, and the creators getting compensated, then I think it's something we can accommodate.
Right. So, if we talked earlier in the conversation about being Web3 native. When I ask people what they think that means, or building a native Web3 platform, uh, how would you define it? What makes a platform Web3 native?
Yeah, I think that there's some level of decentralization that needs to be present, and one of the most sort of obvious ways is, can I connect my wallet with my own assets that I have custody of? So if I have a MetaMask with my own crypto, can I pay using that, and can I collect assets that are on chain, so NFTs, for example, that I then wholly own in my wallet? I can then take my own payment method away if I want to. I can take those assets away and then go and use them somewhere else. And what that opens up is, it opens up the possibility for new platforms to come in and say, oh, okay, well, anyone who owns this asset that they've maybe bought over there, they can come in and plug in and use our platform and use that asset on our platform.
Mhm.
So I think I keep talking about platforms because we are a platform. We have to think, okay, how can we, do we want to interoperate with certain NFTs or certain coins? Do we want to let our users take certain things off our platform and take them somewhere else? Yeah, and how does that kind of grow the value of our own network and community? It's a big question for us.
Right. But what do you see in the future with for Mintstars and Web3 marketing in general, and building trust in the community? Anything
Yeah.
significant will change, or is it just hard work and connecting with real people, listening, understanding what their needs are, and it's just a cycle many actually probably don't want to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think those kind of hard yards will always be there if you're trying to find product market fit. I think something that's quite close to us and that I'm excited about is introducing tokens that represent the value of existing communities and networks. So, for example, there's a token that's recently launched called Enjoy, Enjoy token, and it's a coin on Zora protocol, which is a protocol where artists can make art and share content. And the coin has been made completely separately to Zora, who've developed their own platform, but you can now use that token to tip creators on Zora. So what's really clever about it is Enjoy have identified that there's a behavior going on where people want to support artists on Zora. They've created and airdropped a currency to allow people to do that thing and show their appreciation. So I think there's something really powerful in tokenizing and giving people sort of an on-chain proof of existing behaviors and existing community. And what's really interesting is if you're working with a product that's on chain, it's permissionless. You can read the wallet addresses of all the people using that platform, and you can go and do an airdrop. You can go and promote your NFT or your token to that community. And I think it's going to be a really interesting way of building audiences and creating value, if you like, and representing value for those audiences and communities. And then, it kind of lends itself a little bit to what we're doing at Mintstars, where we have a community, they're already transacting, they're already chatting with each other. Maybe it would be interesting to kind of tokenize and represent that value.
Okay. Well, you look at the Web2 space, a lot of the people are operating under the same behaviors, right? So they go on social media every single day. Their data is being used. It's being monetized by these platforms. And, maybe less than 1% of all people online are in Web3 or have some understanding of it. What do you think is going to really cause it to shift where people say, you know what? I want control of my data. I want to be able to monetize it when I say, you can, right? I mean, when do you see that shift? What needs to happen?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I don't know if there's a set answer. I think what you do see is certain communities want ownership of the spaces that they've created online, and it could be literal ownership. So, like, if you're a Reddit user, the IPO happened a month ago or something like that. The users have created a lot of the value of that IPO by being there, by sharing their thoughts, by interacting. I think there's an understanding that I think people are recognizing, okay, we've helped create the value that this network, this platform has, but we don't actually own it. And crypto is a way of owning that value. And then secondly, there's perceived ownership. And that might come from the fact that as a participant on Reddit, I don't have any right to shape the terms and conditions. I don't have any input on new features, and I don't even see those conversations happening. Whereas perhaps if we can get to, and this is more leaning into DAOs and sort of that way of thinking, if we can give people a sense of ownership of those platforms, I think it could become a much better experience for users. And I think it's going to take a lot of time. There are some industries, a little bit like the one that Mintstars is in, where creators already have that dissatisfaction and they already are looking for a platform that they feel respects their needs and that they can own a bit of potentially in the future. In terms of getting, billions of people at a TikTok level or a Facebook level, I think we're still a long way off that being the sort of mainstream expectation that it's going to be tokenized or it's going to be community owned.
Okay. Well, what advice would you have for a startup founder just entering the Web3 space? And not saying that their product is really Web3 native, but they have something that's based on decentralization. They do have support for cryptos and certain wallets. What would your overall advice to be for these startup founders?
Yeah, I think the biggest time saving that I can say from our learning is be really clear about whether you are building for that Web3 user or the Web 2.5 user, and totally align your product and marketing strategy towards one of those two audiences. And if you try and go down the middle and do a bit of both, I think it's a real uphill battle. So the whole sort of user experience from the messaging people see on social media through to the website, through to that product needs to be aligned in favor of one of those and whatever the problem is that you're solving.
Yeah. I've seen several platforms where they try to serve both types of users, like Web2 and Web3 users, and it just gets really confusing. Like, I'm a Web2 user, and for me to access the platform, it's just connect your wallet. I'm like, well, I don't get it.
Yeah.
What wallet? I don't get it, right? So it's very easy to confuse people going after two separate audiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Fraser, that concludes our our episode, and I want to thank you for your time and all of your insights shared with our audience today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Been really good talking with you.